E-bike part 2. My original e-bike has served me very well, and I've done several hundred or maybe even 1,000 or more miles in it in total. But it was a bit small and the gearing was a bit too high. I couldn't really pedal fast enough when I wanted to go fast enough at a higher speed. So I got this old bike. It's actually my brother's bike from when we were both kids. It's around about 1999. It's awesome. Check out those bomber forks. And we've got an old disc brake on the front here, and we've got the HS33 hydraulic rim brake at the back for those of you from the 90s who remember those. So this bike is it's a 21-inch frame, so it's a lot bigger, and it's got gearing that will actually help me. So when I'm in the most difficult gear, I will still be able to pedal at approaching 30 miles an hour, unlike the other bike. And I've already dismantled the other bike. Here's the wheel from it. That will be going on with a bigger disc. We're changing that one up and making this into my new e-bike. So it'll be overall the same, but I'll be able to go faster because I'll be able to pedal at the maximum throttle, which will be nice, and the bike will be able to take a bit more abuse, and I'll be able to ride it maybe a bit more off-road more than I could last time. Now, I was lambasted on one of my previous videos for not properly torquing up these little screws, these bolts to hold the disc on. So this time I will do it. I forget what the number is now, but I'll just torque up my wrench here and make sure these are up tightly and properly do them across as well. So click, 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 click. So just to double check, and just going across as well. Click, 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 click. Okay, great. Properly torqued, so I'm not going to have a problem with that disc now. Now to mount it on the bike, make sure that it's all fit and mounts up properly. So a slight jump forward in time here of a few weeks from what you've just seen. I had a slight problem. Moments after filming that, I decided to put the bike on the ground and of course just test that it moved along the ground with the motor. And some of you can probably already guess what was going to happen. These forks are more advanced forks than the ones I was using on my previous bike. They're aluminium body, not steel. And the dropouts snapped off immediately. There was no delay. The front wheel just popped out, and I wasn't on the bike at all. I was just here in my garage, and I just gently tapped the throttle, barely moved it, and it just went ching and snapped right out. You can even see one of the pieces just there. So that's quite scary, and now I understand. I didn't realise this before, I didn't know about this problem before, and I understand why people use torque arms to hopefully prevent this sort of thing from happening. Mind you, even if you have torque arms on aluminium forks like this, I don't think that's really a good idea. Even with them, I don't know how much they'll really do. I don't know if I'd feel safe riding it like that. Now, I did nearly 1,000 miles on the other version of this bike, the older bike you've seen, and no problems whatsoever, nothing at all. And I went to check those forks. Not surprisingly, they're steel. Not only that, they're designed, and I will show you in a moment, means that they're very strong where the wheel mounts down here, whereas these ones, of course, these tabs are just cast on, I assume, in the aluminium here, whereas the other steel forks is actually part of the original tube that comes down and is clamped together, so they're not even welded on the steel forks. It's the original piece of the tube of the lower stanchion. So very strong for a fork. Very old and crap design. They're the crappy old forks, the other ones. However, I'm going to have to use them, so what I'll now have to do is remove these forks, and these are now scrap, and I'm very sad about that. And this is my brother's old bike, so Will, if you're watching, I'm really sorry, mate. But these now forks they're now scrap, which is a real shame. But I'll have to fit those crappy old steel forks onto this now, which I know work, proven, 1,000 miles worth of riding proven. Fit them on, and continue again with the rim brakes as well. The HS33s mounted on, and continue with those. So here's my prize, one from the other e-bike. and as luck would have it, it is the correct diameter steerer here, and also the correct length too, which is good. I might have to fiddle about with some spacers, but should be alright. Now here's what I was referring to. Well, firstly, I have a magnet just here, a small piece of neodymium magnet. There you go, that's steel, so that firstly helps. And the lower stanchions, as you can see from the rust, are steel. Now they're not welded to this area here, it's all formed from one piece. They were crushed in the factory, clamped for this part here, and it's actually clamped sort of multi-layers. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but you can see multiple layers there crushed in, so it's all just the same piece of tubing crushed together, not welded across here. Now some forks you'll see are welded across here, steel ones obviously. That may well be just as strong, I'm not sure, but to me this seems possibly the strongest arrangement, having a steel lower stanchion and the clamped part, so it's all the original piece of steel. It's possible that the particular shape of this as well, this offset shape, maybe helps it as well, transmitting torque. Of course, with the rotation of the wheel, the motor, the power wants to turn around that way, which is why a lot of the torque arms you see butt up against the back here and push against the back of the fork to resist the anti-clockwise rotational motion around there. So these are the forks that worked for 1,000 miles, and now you can see why these worked for me. I didn't know it at the time. I accidentally used good forks for this e-bike. I didn't know it. And if you look at the broken forks here, you can see, if I go around the corner, of course a much smaller mounting area for the aluminium dropouts location, the axle location. It's much smaller, and I imagine cast. I'm not quite sure how it would be fixed, I must admit, but it might well be pre-cast like that, so much smaller and nowhere near able to take the same torque really. Now check out this bad boy. This is a fun, I think it might be a Henchman, but it was a long time ago, so I forget. 10 points to anyone who does definitely know which one this is. This is something I saw in a magazine, probably MB UK, when I was a kid in the late 90s or early noughties, and I thought I must have this object. So I saved up and bought it, and it's amazing. Look at it, what a beast. I forgot I had this now, so this is almost certainly going to go on the bike. I do have another spare as well, this 414 Industries. So maybe I'll use this one in the future, I'm not quite sure. It's a little heavier, strangely. I wonder if some part of it's steel or if it's just a lot of aluminium. This is quite a bit lighter, funnily enough, and it's got a lot more adjustment. So I'm clearly putting this fun bad boy on the bike. Quick look now at the wheel mounted to the bike along with the fork, and I can show you in a little more detail again the bottom of these fork mountings. You can see all one piece steel here and clamped at the bottom, and the multi-layers there. So all mounted up now, forks are on, and I've got the that awesome fun stem on there as well. And I've just quickly connected it to a battery I have to show you that it's still spinning up. There we go. Spinning up fine. So almost to the next part, and building up the bike, charge the battery up, and maybe even go for a ride this evening. Oh yeah, I do need to put on some front brakes to this as well. And after not an unreasonable amount of fiddling, especially with the brakes and things, it is now up and running. I've just taken it for its first test ride, and it's working well. There's a little bit of rub on the front brakes, and I do need to order some new pads for these. They're a bit low. It made a nice crack noise when I first tried to move it under some weight, and I think it was just sort of settling. I have checked the nuts, they are tight, and I've checked for any alarming cracks down by the mount. Nothing there, so I think it was just sort of settling. Check out that. So this is all period correct now, this late 90s, early noughties Saracen bike. So we've got HS33s and this hilarious fun headset overkill. Period correct, apart from all the electronics. Oh yeah, also DMR V8s as well, period correct. Yeah, so that's working well now. I need some time to bed in. I need to also adjust the rear brakes. There's a lot of play in those at the moment, a lot of movement I should say, so I need to order some new pads for that and adjust it, but it's generally working fine. I'm not sure that I'm going to put on the rear pannier rack from the other bike. I might just keep it as one, because the bike feels a lot nicer with just one battery in the centre, relatively low down in terms of weight. It feels a lot nicer to ride rather than having something heavy up high here. It wasn't as good, so I'll probably leave it like this for a little while. So there is e-bike part 2.